Hi there, I'm Jason Alcott, author of the upcoming book, The Sewing Principle, and today I want to talk about the importance of creating space or creating margin in our life. But before we do, I want to say a really big thank you to everybody that has subscribed to the channel. It means a lot to me. If you haven't already had the opportunity, it's free for you to do. Hit the subscribe button below. It really actually does help to share the video and get it out there into the YouTube universe, so we really appreciate it. Also wanted to say a really big thank you to everybody that's been reaching out and giving me feedback. It's been appreciated and very encouraging. I've gotten a lot of feedback that just simply says, doing great, keep going, which is really helpful. So I really appreciate that. So one of the things that I've been kind of learning and focusing on over the last number of years is how can I make my decisions, daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis? How can I align my decision making based upon my values? So I've done a lot of work over the last number of years with my wife and defining our family values and defining my personal values. So I know that my faith and my family are obviously key values to me, but how can I make decisions that align with those values and not just decisions that are based upon all of the extraneous circumstances, the life circumstances that are sort of coming at us from any moment, in any given moment. How can I make decisions based on my values? And one of the things that really impacts that is how are we operating inside of our limits? Because we all have limits. We all only have 24 hours a day. Nobody gets 26 or 28. It's only 24. We have limits in our capacity to work with other people, our capacity in our relationships. We also have limits to our capacity in financially. Obviously, that's a big one for a lot of people. And if you're hitting your financial limits on if you're paycheck to paycheck or on a month-to-month basis, if there's more going out than it's coming in, it creates a lot of stress. And when we're in those stress situations where we've gone from, what can we handle to our limit, then all of a sudden we have to make decisions based upon either other people's values or we make decisions based out of fear. So when I talk about creating space or margin, I'm looking at these sort of different areas of my life and going, how can I create space in that area so that I can make decisions based on my values and not just based on all these other extraneous circumstances? So what are some of the ways that we can create margin? How can we look at this from a perspective and actually take some actionable steps? One of the big things that I think about when I look at creating margin or creating space in my life is I look at the way that I answer people when they ask me how I'm doing. They say, hey, how's it going? How was your day? And I do this all the time. Maybe you do the same thing, but I always go, going great, doing great, generally positive. And then I say this word, I say, really busy. And I think it's like this, we do this and we wear this sort of badge of pride or honor that's a good thing. Like we want to be busy. We wouldn't want to tell people that we weren't busy, that we were bored. They'd be like, what's wrong with you? But when I think about it, I'm like, well, busy was never my goal. I didn't wake up on January 1st and be like, you know what, 2021, I'm going to be busy this year. That's my goal. If I'm busy all year, then I'll be happy. That's not it. That's not what I was looking for. It doesn't align with my values. So why do I say that I'm busy? Because I got kids and a job and projects and all these things on the go. And what I recognize is that everything that I say yes to, so whether, whatever fits into my calendar, even financially, whatever purchase you say yes to or time that you spend means that I'm saying no to something else. And no, possibly to multiple things. And some of those things might not be things, but actually just margin and space. So when you think about it from a financial perspective, if you're able to create margin and space so that we have like an emergency fund in our bank account and savings set aside because life is going to happen. There are costs that are going to come up that are unexpected. And if your budget's too tight, we're going to find ourselves in hot water. By creating that margin and space, I'm allowed to be able to, it allows me to align with my values of faith and my values of giving back and my values of uplifting and encouraging people because I have the capacity to do it. I've created this space to do it. So I never had this goal of being busy, which means I've had to get really, and I, working on this constantly, but this sort of ruthless elimination of busy, being really, really highly focused on how am I spending my time? How am I spending my resources? Can I dial that in, not just so that I'm cutting back, but that I can actually create margin and allow God to speak into my life? Allow me to make decisions based on my value because I've got space there to do it. So when I think about my relationships, when I look at it, I want to be like, is there space in my schedule so that I can invest the time to build relationship with my wife and kids and my family members and friends, all these that are aligned with my values? Is there space in my schedule so that I can build relationship with them? So very much the same way that when life does ups and downs, do I have a foundational relationship in my family that's going to allow us to weather those ups and downs and go through those things together? And that only happens if I create space. When I think a big one that really sticks out to me is, do I have that time in my calendar, in my day, to spend time with God in prayer. I mean, we often hear this. I've definitely said this in the past where I'm like, it just feels like God isn't speaking to me right now. He didn't say anything to me. He's not telling me. I'm trying to figure out what my purpose is in life. Or I'm trying to figure out where I'm going, but God's not talking to me right now. And I've had to pause and look at it. And whenever I've said that, I've had to pause and look at what's going on. And I'm going, yeah, but I've not given him any space to speak into my life. I'm not spending time in prayer or devotions or reading my Bible. He doesn't have an opportunity to speak into my life because I'm so busy. I'm so task focused. I'm moving from one thing to the next thing, to the next thing, to the next thing. And we do it, and we all do it. And that, it's not fine. It's something that we have to recognize and then kind of be able to go, well, how can we create space and margin so that God can speak into my life? Because I know that he wants to speak into your life, because I know that he speaks into mine. I know that he wants to tell you what his purpose is for you. He wants to be able to encourage you and uplift you and help you along the journey, because that's his heart. He wants us to be able to go forward and to make an impact. So I really hope that encourages you to kind of take some of those steps and to be able to create space, create margin in all these different areas of life. Look at life and figure out, why am I doing this? Why am I spending my time here? Why am I investing my money here? And is this the best use? Does it align with my values? That's really been a helpful way for me to sort of stop and pause and create margin and create space. There's one other point that I wanted to talk to. And as I was kind of researching this idea of creating space and margin, I heard this idea, and it's not just about creating space and margin in your own life. It's the way it was described was creating space and margin for other people in your life. And I know I can be incredibly guilty of this, where I hold people in my life, those around me, those that I work with, my family, I hold people to an incredibly high standard. And that can be a real problem. I don't allow people the grace to make mistakes, to fail, to do their own life in their own way. And I hold people to this standard. But it was greatly said, just giving people that margin so that if something does go sideways or things do, we're all human and we make mistakes and we do things differently, that I'm not really upset because something has happened. I've given that person grace. I've given that person margin. And of course, as I think further into this, the greatest example obviously being Jesus has given me a whole ton of grace. How can I not then take that grace, that faithfulness that he has, that forgiveness that he has, and extend that into my relationships with other people? That really hit me when I thought about creating space and margin in my life. It's not just in all the sort of different areas of my life, but in the relationships. I need to create space and margin in my relationships. I need to allow people to be themselves, to learn what God wants them to learn, and to be able to go on their own journey. I want to uplift and encourage and help those that want to be helped. But for those that are walking sort of their own journey, you've got to allow them to walk down that path and let them learn in their own way. So I hope you feel encouraged and uplifted. I love the opportunity to share. Thank you so much for your time. Again, jasonalcott.com is where you can sign up for some updates about the upcoming book. Would love the opportunity to be able to connect with you there. And I look forward to sharing with you again next week.